Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today for this episode of Allan's Leadership Edge. I'm really grateful that you could make it today. The topic for today is around mindset. And I think mindset's a really good place for us to delve into, particularly after the last two podcasts, which are looking around interview techniques face-to-face, looking at your competency-based questions using the STAR method. But a lot of what we've looked at prior to that as well really has a focus and has a lead into mindset. And mindset is such an important thing in terms of how we look at things, how we embrace things, how we look at challenges and problems and how we can overcome those, or if we overcome them at all, because in some cases we don't overcome them. The challenges overcome us, the barriers overcome us, and we don't have that mindset to actually overcome those. So today for me is a really poignant one. Okay, there's a poignant one for me today because I met somebody over the last few days that I think needs a bit of help. They need some support. And actually, this is thinking about that individual. It's aimed at many, many people, but particularly this one individual and the mindset that we have and how we look at things is key. So I want to jump straight into it. I want to go straight into what we're kind of looking at. And mindset in itself, as you can imagine, is the frame of mind that we have at any specific time in our lives, in our day, in the week, whenever it might be. But our mindset can change so regularly. You know, one minute you can be happy, the next minute you can be sad. So it can happen. But it's about, again, how we deal with it, how we try to overcome that, and how we really make the most of the situations. This is obviously a leadership podcast, and it is about leadership mindset. It is about how we're able to utilize that. But it can be placed in pretty much anything. Okay, mindset can be placed within everyday life. It can be placed within working life, and how our mindset is absolutely key. And I want to look at that and look at different elements as well, and just bring in different potential theories that would have an impact. I won't go into too much detail on those because there will be other podcasts. But to kick us off, really, it's the age-old argument is about a fixed and a growth mindset. Do you have an open mindset? Do you have a closed mindset? And everyone will be different in different places. I've never met anybody in my life that is just a completely open mindset, growth mindset. Equally, I've never met anybody that's a completely fixed mindset or a closed mindset, because everyone is different. Everyone has passions in different places. Everybody has hobbies and interests in different places. And it's how we're able to gain that knowledge, gain that information, learn a bit more about people, so we're able to look at where they're at that point. If somebody has a fixed mindset, you always want to try and get them into a growth mindset, but there are certain things that people just don't want to grow on. Yeah, people are happy in what they're doing, so they're happy just to keep going at where they're going. So for some elements, you might have a fixed mindset. Excuse me, for others, you may have a growth mindset. So it depends on where you're at. But being able to reflect on that and think, where am I at this moment, is key, is pivotal. For you to be successful in what it is that you want to do and how you want to get there, then actually it's really about making sure you think about where you're at. As we know, emotional intelligence is one of my most favorite things in the world. Self-awareness, folks. Yeah, self-awareness, as we know, is the foundation of emotional intelligence. So we need to be able to utilize that to get the most out of ourselves. When we've been aware, made aware by ourselves of self-awareness, we see what's what, we see what's affecting us. We're then in a position to manage it. If we can manage it, we're able to move forward with it. So don't look at a fixed mindset as something that's negative necessarily, because somebody might just be happy where they are. If they are in a fixed mindset, there's a reason why. So don't be afraid to ask that question. And why is it you have a fixed mindset? Equally, why is it you have a growth mindset? What is it you want to do? What is it you want to develop? Because it's just as important to celebrate that growth mindset as it is to challenge the fixed mindset, not in a negative way, but see how it can be changed, how it can be adapted, if at all. Well, I think when we look at these things, it does start within us. It does start with us, and actually it makes a big difference in terms of how we do things and when we do things. And one thing I do like to draw on is the inner monologue or inner dialogue that we have within ourselves. And there's a great quote from Henry J. Ford that I love, whereby he says, if you say you can and you say you can't, you're right on both points. And I love that because it's around the mindset. If you tell yourself that you can do something, you're so much more likely to do it. If you tell yourself you can't do something, likelihood is you're not going to do it. The mind is a very powerful tool. If we use it in the right way, then actually it can really help. It can really develop us. And within that inner monologue, I'd like to draw you back to episode number 3, which was the power of words. I like to go back to that one because I think it's a very powerful podcast, because looking at the power of words, it has a big impact. If we're talking about that inner monologue, one thing that draws me to a lot of questions when I coach people and I work with people is I do like to ask them that question is, are you your own worst critic? And most people will put their hands up and say, yeah, I'm my own worst critic. That for me straight away is not necessarily a negative thing, because people don't always look at it in the way that I see it. But the word critique is critiquing. And actually, if you critique yourself, if you're your own worst critic, all you're doing is critiquing yourself. Now, people don't always mean it in that way, but the words that we use have a huge impact on us. So what I would challenge to people is, instead of saying that you're your own worst critic, say that you are your best analyzer. Because if you're analyzing, you're looking at pros, you're looking at cons, you're looking at lots of different aspects within this whole piece. You're not just looking at that one critiquing point. Because if you just focus on that one critiquing point, that's all you're going to see. And that's not you. You know, anybody that's listening, anybody that's watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, I believe there is so much more to everyone. I really, really do. I believe that everybody has the potential to do so much more. But it's just about being asked the right questions. It's about being challenged and pushed in the right way to get the most out of people. But sometimes we have to have that inward look. We have to look at ourselves, and we have to be able to identify where our mindset is, what we're able to do, and how we're able to do it. I'm no psychologist. You know, I don't pretend to be a psychologist in any way, shape, or form, but I do believe in the power of the mind, and I do believe in mind over matter. And I believe that actually, like I gave you the quote of Henry J. Ford, if we tell ourselves we can do something, we're more likely to achieve it because we've got that mindset. We're also going to go into it with intention. If we have intentionality, as John Maxwell says, then actually what happens is you're going to, again, be more successful, because all you're literally doing is going into something with intention, saying that you can do it, which means the outcome is going to be more successful. But going back to the other point, if you say you can't, you're not going to do it, because already you fought that battle in your head. You've already told yourself why it's not going to happen. You've already made the excuses as to why it didn't happen. I couldn't do it because I didn't have enough time. Didn't do it because I didn't have the resources. Some of these points are going to be very genuine, but some of them are going to be barriers that we've put there. And it's down to us to take those away. And it's down to us to really make that difference. And I do like to say to people that it is about you. It's got to be about you. And I've said in other podcasts, I have a family, and my family will always come first to a degree. But if I'm not in a healthy position, if I'm not in a good frame of mind, how can I possibly help my family? How can I possibly help my loved ones? How can I possibly help the people that I say that I want to help on such a regular basis? I can't. It's going to be so difficult for me to do that. And it happened. You know, it's happened to me before. I worked in prison education for a bit of time, and it had a massive, massive knock on my mental health, like really big knock on my mental health. And it was impacting everyone else. So my mindset at that point wasn't good, just because of what was happening in that job role, because of what I was seeing, because of what was happening. And I'd never personally recommend anybody to work in the prison service, but that is just me. It's Marmite through and through. People love it, people hate it. Spoke to many, many people that love it. And if it's for you, virtual high five. Absolutely admire everything that you do. But for me, it wasn't for me because it was impacting other people. It impacted my relationships with my kids, with my wife, with my mother, with my father, with my brother, because actually I wasn't in that frame of mind to be able to engage in those conversations. My mind was elsewhere. So I had to move myself out of that situation so I could get my mindset back to the right place. And I alluded at the start, there might be different models, and I just want to talk very briefly about the leadership shadow concept. A lot of you would have heard about leading by example, and the leadership shadow concept for me really gives some clout behind leading by example. Because leading by example is a very broad subject, a very broad statement. But if you look at the leadership shadow, that has a big impact. And somebody said to me the other day, it's about behavior breeds behavior. If you demonstrate an open mindset, if you show behaviors that go towards an open mindset, a growth mindset, people are going to see that. People are going to grow with that. People are going to develop with that. And people are actually going to want to have more of an inclination towards that. So think about what it is that you're doing as a leader, as a parent, as a manager, as a person. What influence are you having on those around you? Because what I guarantee you is you are having an influence. You'll have more of an influence than you would possibly know. So take into consideration what it is that's happening around you. But remember, you will never be the best version of yourself if you are always critiquing yourself. Yeah, that's a big, big thing. I believe that you can change your mindset. I believe that mindset is there to be changed. I believe that you can overcome it, but it's about how you do it. It's about how you are able to reframe those elements. Taking you to another podcast, not psychological safety, the circle of influence. Yeah, the circle of influence is a great tool to utilize for your mental health. Mindset is about what you can achieve, what you can't achieve, recognizing that. So using your emotional intelligence, using the circle of influence, circle of concern. If you remember back to that episode, the circle of concern are things that you can't do anything about, but you concern yourself with. So actually thinking about those, if you can't do anything with it, why are you stressing about it? Yeah, I realize there's a lot of things in our life that will stress us out. They worry us, but there's nothing that we can do about it. If we have genuinely reflected on it and thought, right, what can I do? Can't do anything. Then you've got to let it go. You just got to leave it. Spend more time in your circle of influence. Yeah, in the circle of influence is where you make a difference, is where you get time back. You get return on the energy that you've invested and the time that you've spent because you can see an outcome. If you spend the time focusing on the things you can't control, that's where your mental health is going to have a spiral. That's where your mindset is going to change. So just think about where it is you want to go. Think about that mindset that you have. Yeah, think about the direction that you're taking to go to where you want to go. But just remember that you can change. You can change your mindset. There are always going to be people around you that want to help and want to support. I've offered my support many a times to many different people. Some people take it, some people don't take it. Sometimes we just need to share a thought. Sometimes we just need to give our ear for people to listen to. That's all we need. It's just that time to be present in a conversation. But ultimately, our mindset is the difference between being successful and not successful. We can get there, success, through a fixed mindset sometimes, but it will be harder. It will be harder. It will take a lot longer, a lot more energy, a lot more effort. But if we really truly think about where we're at, we can go from there. And it's important to remember that with a mindset, if you're comfortable, you'll always be comfortable, which is great. Comfort is nice. Being comfortable is nice. But actually, if we want to change, if we want to develop, if we want to grow, then we need to feel uncomfortable. Because growth leads to change. Change leads to feeling uncomfortable. Because change is different. Change is something new. And if we want to be able to change, we have to be able to think of that mindset. I do say to people, they find it sometimes quite corny, sometimes quite dodgy. But I do say to people that if you're trying to change, if you're trying to change your mindset, if you're trying to change something about you, just think of me. All right. And if you get to a point where you're feeling challenged, where you're thinking to yourself, well, actually, do you know what? I don't think I want to carry on with this because I feel really uncomfortable. Just ask yourself, what would Allan say? Yeah, what would Allan ask me? And the chances are I would ask you, why are you feeling uncomfortable? Once you've answered that, I would then probably ask you, well, how can you overcome that comfortableness or uncomfortableness? And we'd really go into it. Because once you've established why you're feeling uncomfortable and why it is you want to stop, then you're able to potentially move forward. There's been many times when people have said they want to stop to me and I've tried to convince them to carry on. I've asked them many questions, but they've just not wanted to do it. And that's fine. That's about how we embrace it. That's how we manage ourselves, how we manage our emotions. And there's no problem with that. There's no problem with not completing something. But there's a problem when we don't try to change something, when we don't try to overcome something. Or at the first hurdle, we don't talk to somebody to try and get over that hurdle. We just say, oh, there's a barrier there, let's stop. That's when it's disappointing. If we want to make that difference, we have to think in ourselves. We have to look in ourselves. We have to be self-reflective. We have to think about where our mindset can take us. Whether you're in an interview, whether you're in a new job role as a leader, the mindset that we go into it is absolutely key. Now, I'm not talking about toxic positivity, which I've mentioned in other podcasts, but I'm not talking about that level of positivity. But you can go into things positive. You can have that positive outlook to really get the most out of it. Because actually, again, what we put in is what we get out. So if we go in saying we can't do it, chances are we won't do it. If we go in saying we can do it, chances are we'll do it. So I do want you to reflect. I want you to take the time, and I'd like you to just to think about what's your mindset at the moment. Yeah, think about a specific challenge that you're facing at work. Think about a specific event in your life or something like that. And just think about what mindset you have. Yeah, where are you at this moment? Are you in a growth mindset? Are you in a fixed mindset? Once you can establish where you're at, you can either sustain that path or you can look to change that path. But sometimes you need support. Sometimes you need those questions asked of you to help you to get to a point of realization to say, right, this is where I am. This is what I need to do. So please try and think about your mindset. Please try and focus on where you can go. Because like I say, everybody has the potential to do so much more. Everybody has that opportunity to go further. But sometimes the only thing that's holding us back is ourselves. If you find that you are holding yourself back, give me a shout. Happy to have a conversation, happy to engage in something to see how we can help you overcome that. Because I will stress that when you get that growth mindset, when you develop, when you push yourself, it's hard, but the rewards at the end of it far outweigh that feeling of uncomfortableness. The more you stretch yourself, the more you'll be used to feeling uncomfortable. The more a growth mindset will come into it. So just think about what it is you want to do. Where do you want to go? What's your mindset at the moment? How can you reframe? How can you rephrase? And if you want help, give me a shout. It's only a short one today, folks. Yeah, just a short one just to get that message across. But as always, I'm here. I want to help. give me a shout, use the comments. You can find me on LinkedIn, on Spotify, on YouTube. Give me a shout. I'm more than happy to engage in conversations with anyone and everyone, because I do believe that everybody has the potential to grow. Everyone has the potential to develop. So until next time, I hope you stay well, keep learning, and keep growing. Thank you very much.